Chapter 23 Meeting the Wolf Head Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as Lin Feng left, several strong men in uniform appeared here. Several people looked around cautiously, and soon saw a wide pool of blood on the ground. Several people immediately gathered around the place where the blizzard demon ape had just died. One of the strong men who looked like a leader wiped a handful of blood and smelled it at his nose. Immediately, he twisted his hands and said to one of them, "This is the blood of Warcraft. Someone just fought with Warcraft here. Please send a signal to the young captain and the two captains." After finishing speaking, he looked at the other people and said, "You guys follow me to the nearby area to look for him. If it is really that kid, we will quickly catch him and go to the group leader. When there are more people, we won't even be able to drink the soup." Superior. Captain, that kid can defeat even the young captain with Xian-level fighting skills. We, except for you who are a 6-star fighter, are all 3 and 4-star fighters. Are we going to take too many risks? A trace of fear flashed in the eyes of one of the mercenaries. He had seen the twisted look of Mu Li's palms before, and he said with some worry. Hearing this, the other mercenaries suddenly felt a little weak and whispered, "Yes, Captain, how about we wait for the others to arrive first?" Hearing everyone's objections, the captain's face sank slightly when he thought that he still had tens of thousands of gold coins left to purchase the Huang-level advanced skills. At the last moment of his life, he had only one thought in his mind: I was deceived. This is not a 2-star fighter at all. Also, why am I so greedy? Watching the people leaving, the captain sneered in his heart, and then turned around and entered the forest to search. When he came to a branch, Lin Feng hummed softly and looked at the people through the thick leaves. On the side of their shirts, the pattern of a wolf head looking up to the sky and roaring was particularly conspicuous. "Well, since you have said so, I will take you on a trip together." The captain nodded and said reluctantly. Before he could finish speaking, he was knocked several meters away by the ferocious crimson fighting spirit and fell heavily onto the trunk of a giant tree. There was only one leading mercenary who was a 6-star fighter. Immediately, Lin Feng gently approached the leading mercenary. Boom! Hearing this, the captain nodded, then assigned the tasks, and several people dispersed to search. "You few idiots, you really thought I would give you gold coins. I just want you to use up that boy's fighting spirit when you meet him. When the time comes, it will all be mine, hee." After observing for a long time, Lin Feng determined that there were only a few mercenaries from the 3rd and 4th-star fighters here. The captain smiled slightly and then said, "I originally thought that if I caught that kid, I would distribute the gold coins to you. With the money you have saved over the years, you should be able to upgrade your own skills or fighting skills." Hearing this, everyone nodded, not quite understanding what the captain meant. If you don't deal with him first, it's easy for him to escape when you kill other mercenaries. As he spoke, he glanced at the 2 corpses on the side intentionally or unintentionally. The sudden loud noise instantly alerted several other people. Just as they were about to step forward to help, they saw their captain flying back suddenly. After he was dealt with, the other 3 and 4 fighters couldn't escape from his grasp. Exhaling a breath of cold air, he started running the red fire art at full speed. The fighting energy in the cyclone rushed toward the cold source in his abdomen, forcing the latter to continuously consume energy to resist the driving force of the fighting energy in Lin Feng's body. In the next few days, apart from eating and drinking the most basic things every day, Lin Feng spent most of his time consuming cold energy. Looking at the people who were breathing increasingly rapidly, the captain changed his words and said with a hint of pity, "However, if you don't want to go, I can't force you, so I'd better go and join the big team first." He grabbed the latter's collar and said in a cold voice, "Tell me, among your wolf-head mercenary group, who led the team this time, and how many people entered the Warcraft Mountains in total, otherwise?" Looking at the scared expressions on everyone's face, he said coldly, "I'm fine, I still have enough money, but you guys are still practicing low-level Huang-level skills. Captain, be careful, run." Hee, then I'll trouble you, Captain." Several people flattered the captain when they saw his promise. Feeling the coldness gradually spreading in the body, one can only use the most primitive method, running Dou Qi to consume the coldness in the body. Then he jumped a few times, entered the forest, and approached the strangers secretly. Red fire palm, Lin Feng's pupils shrank slightly and he looked at the uniformly dressed people with a solemn expression. He would not think that these people were here for a stroll. Seeing the reactions of several people, Lin Feng sneered and immediately flew towards them. After a while, Lin Feng stepped over the 2 corpses in front of him and came to the only living mercenary. It wasn't until the morning of the 5th day that Lin Feng felt his body being warm again, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The damn cold air had finally been exhausted. Want to run away? Have you asked me? Several people who were fascinated by the martial arts fighting skills heard that the captain was about to go back, and immediately grabbed the captain who was about to leave and changed their words. Sit cross-legged, take care of the physical injuries, and start searching inside the ring. After a while, Lin Feng stopped searching helplessly. There was no prescription that could cure the cold in the collection. Arriving not far behind the 6-star fighter, Lin Feng stepped back slightly with his right foot, then stepped hard, causing his body to bounce up instantly. Suddenly, Lin Feng stood up in vain, looking like an eagle in the direction where he had previously killed the blizzard demon ape. The 5-star fighter heard the noise, turned around and saw Lin Feng only 10 meters away from him, and said in horror, Lin. On the other side, Lin Feng hurried back to the waterfall in the mountain stream, jumped and climbed a few steps, and then came to the cliff where the sun was the strongest. After hitting the tree trunk next to them, they immediately changed their subject and quickly ran towards the outskirts of the Warcraft Mountains. There, several people were searching here. At this point, the captain paused for a moment and continued, at that time, not only will my strength increase dramatically, but my descendants will also be able to practice more advanced fighting skills when they first become fighters, so as to win at the starting line. The people of the Wolf Head mercenary group are really haunted. No, Captain, hey, we were just talking just for fun, we are all willing to go. After saying that, the captain slowly stood up. It's our young regiment leader, and the 3 regiment leaders each lead a team. They probably lead about 20 people each. Following Lin Feng's gaze and looking at the corpse of his companion, the mercenary swallowed his saliva and hurriedly told all the information he knew. Are there 40 people in total? Lin Feng murmured in a low voice, then calmed down for a few seconds, and then continued to ask, where are they now? Chapter 24 Killing Mu Li. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Our young regiment leader entered the mountain along the route taken by Wanyas Hai to collect herbs, while the 3rd regiment leader followed the route often taken by mercenaries. The mercenary finished speaking quickly, then looked up at Lin Feng's chin and whispered nervously, Sir, I know everything I know, but I have told you everything. Now, can you let me go? Well, let's go. Lin Feng nodded, then waved his hand to indicate that the mercenary could leave. Thanks. The mercenary quickly raised his hands to express his gratitude. There was a trace of resentment in his eyes, and he thought viciously in his heart, boy, wait until I join the young commander and call the masters in the regiment to see if you die. However, the face that looked at Lin Feng was filled with a flattering smile, and he turned around to leave. Stone punch. Boom. Just as he was congratulating himself on escaping death, the mercenary heard a young shout coming from behind him. Immediately, the body suddenly flew up, and when it landed again, it had fallen into a permanent sleep. I still think it would be better to kill you than let you go back. Not paying attention to the new corpse on the ground, Lin Feng turned to look in the direction of Mu Li. Immediately, he smiled solemnly and said, Wolf Head Mercenary Group, since you want to kill people and steal treasures, let's see if you can withstand my revenge. As the sun set, the mercenary group that had been searching for a day in the Warcraft Mountains began to rush towards the camp in 2s and 3s, the expressions on their faces are mostly relaxed. After all, in their eyes, Lin Feng was already so scared that he was running around in the Warcraft Mountains, so what danger could there be? Moreover, many people have never seen Mu Li's miserable state, and they all thought that Lin Feng had defeated Mu Li before and accidentally hit their young captain. However, in the darkness they didn't know, a pair of sharp eyes were staring at them, hidden on the branches. Lin Feng looked around and saw that there were no other groups before and after this group of mercenaries. The figure quickly left the place, turning into a black shadow and heading towards several people. Boom. As the fist came into contact with the body, one mercenary instantly disappeared from the sight of the other mercenaries. Enemy cry. Another mercenary who responded quickly was about to shout loudly to attract the attention of other mercenaries nearby, however, as soon as he opened his mouth, he was punched and flew away, and he went nowhere. 17th. Now, Mu Li's team should only consist of Mu Li and a few guards around him. Looking at the jungle beside the road, there were more than a dozen corpses dressed in the costumes of the wolf-head mercenary group that were randomly placed. Immediately, he jumped a few times and followed this only road, approaching Muley camp in the valley. Why are those guys so active today? It's almost dark, and no one has come back yet. Beside the fire in the camp, a guard from Muley looked at the empty camp and said strangely. Another guard turned over the pieces of meat he was grilling, carefully brushed the honey, and casually replied, maybe it's the 100,000 gold coins that Captain Greed offered as a reward. It can't be that all of them were killed when they met that kid. The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. The mercenary from before reacted instantly. Even if some of these mercenaries are greedy for the 100,000 gold coins, not all of them are like this. He hurriedly ran into the main tent not far away and shouted to Muley who was resting inside, young captain, something happened. None of the mercenaries who went out came back. What? Being woken up unexpectedly, Muley was just about to get angry. When he heard the guard's words, his sleepiness instantly disappeared and he shouted in surprise, immediately, I didn't have time to put on my clothes and shoes, so I hurried out to take a look. The camp, which was usually bustling with people at this time, was now completely silent. Under the cover of darkness, the empty camp seemed a little lifeless. Quickly, leave here and go to the 3rd Regiment commander. Although Muley doesn't know what happened now, something is obviously wrong with the situation in front of him. The safest thing to do is to meet up with the other route as soon as possible. Yes, you all should stop grilling meat and quickly escort the young regiment commander to the 3rd Regiment commander. The guard hurriedly called the other 2 guards and prepared to leave. When the other 2 guards saw this, they also dropped what they were holding, hurriedly surrounded Muley, and walked outside the camp. Guys, where are you going? As soon as a few people left the camp, they saw a young man standing in the middle of the road, staring at them with a smile. It's you. Muley took a closer look and immediately recognized Lin Feng. Immediately, Muley seemed to have thought of something and couldn't believe it. With a tone of self-deception, he tremblingly said, those mercenaries were just lured away by you, right? Seeing Muley's appearance, Lin Feng smiled and said, those mercenaries. They are all waiting for you. With a murderous look on his face and a hint of ferocity in his smile, Lin Feng continued, don't worry, I won't keep them waiting for too long. I will send you down to accompany them now. Hearing this, Muley looked at the mountains on both sides, feeling endless regret in his heart. When we originally chose the camp in this valley, there was only one road leading outside, so we thought it would be easy to defend but difficult to attack. Now that the door is blocked, I can't get out, let alone escape. Red fire palm. After saying that, Lin Feng stepped hard, and with the help of this recoil, he was in front of Muley in the blink of an eye. The hardening of wood. When Muley saw this, he also hurriedly used his fighting skills to confront him. Boom! The two faced each other, and immediately, Muley flew backwards towards the camp. Lin Feng did not rush to kill Muley, but jumped around and killed the 3 5-star fighter guards. Then he came to Muley leisurely and looked at him lying on his back with a pale face, a pair of arms. The broken arm bones inside had pierced the skin and were exposed in the air, due to Lin Feng's palm. He was seriously injured and could only lie weakly on the ground struggling, as if he wanted to get up. Lin Feng looked down at Muley on the ground and said in a calm tone, don't worry, the other leaders of your wolf-head mercenary group will come down to accompany you soon. You should go down first to explore the way for them. Muley obviously knew that Lin Feng would not let him go today. He spat out a mouthful of blood and said ferociously, if I had known earlier, I should have tried my best to keep you in that cave. Then you must also have that ability. Lin Feng smiled contemptuously, showing no courtesy to the person who wanted to kill him. He raised his right hand and clenched it, then punched Muley's heart hard. The whole Qingshan town knows that the little medical fairy and you obtained high-level martial arts fighting skills in the cave. I guess Wanya's Hai also wants it very much now. You should worry about the safety of your mistress, Chapter 25 Killing Hemon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Before he could finish speaking, Lin Feng's fist hit his heart, interrupting Mu Li's shouting. Looking at the lifeless Mu Li on the ground, Lin Feng suddenly felt a sense of revenge in his heart. He remembered the blocking of the cave door. At the same time, he frowned slightly. Although the wolf-head mercenary group still publicized the cave, which was expected by him, it still made him feel a little troublesome. Come to think of it, the little medical fairy's life in Qingshan town will not be too easy now. It seems that it is necessary to return to Qingshan town after the third captain of the wolf-head is eliminated. After all, if you save a beauty from dire straits, your chances of winning the little medical fairy will be greatly increased. Moreover, after a few years, the little medical fairy will grow up and become a Dozong level master. In this northwest continent, a Dozong level master will be of great help to him. After planning his actions for the next period of time, Lin Feng immediately kept his original intention in mind, squatted down, and took off the neji from Mu Li's finger. After exploring for a while, I found that the thing was pretty good. At least it had a volume of Xian level low-level fighting skills and Huan level advanced skills. After touching a few other guards, he turned around and walked straight towards the other team's camp. The other team, the third leader of the wolf-head mercenary group, Hemon. At this time, he was sitting on the couch in the main tent, holding a beautiful woman in ragged clothes, listening to the report of his men impatiently. After groping around the beautiful woman for a while, he couldn't bear it anymore. He waved his hand and said impatiently, "Okay, I have something to do now. You go out first. We will talk about Mu Li's matter in a minute." Third Captain, we have lost contact with the young captain since last night. This morning, I have sent 3 teams to investigate the situation there, and one of them is led by a 7-star fighter like me. The mercenary paused for a while, with a slightly frightened expression on his face, and continued, "But without exception, all contacts have been lost. I am afraid that there has been an accident with the young commander, so I am afraid that you will have to lead the team to investigate in person." "Okay, I have my own arrangements, you go out first." Seeing Hemon's fierce eyes, the mercenary had no choice but to exit the tent first. Half a minute later, Hemon no longer had any desires and no longer looked as irritable as before. After walking out of the tent and looking at the men who came up to him immediately, he remembered the business and asked, "How long ago was the last time I communicated with Mu Li?" The subordinate hurriedly replied, "Yesterday morning." The young regiment leader said everything was normal, and there has been no news since then. "Okay, now you call everyone else back, and I'll make a trip myself." Herman's thoughts have now returned to normal. After listening to the report from his subordinates, he felt that this matter was unusual, so he decided to go there in person. "Yes." After hearing this, the man quickly took out the signal fireworks and set them off. As a firework exploded over the camp, the surrounding mercenaries rushed towards the camp. "Why are you the only ones back?" After waiting for a while, Hemon saw that only a few mercenaries returned to the camp. He immediately became angry and shouted loudly. Seeing Hemon getting angry, the mercenaries hurriedly replied, "3rd Regiment Commander, we don't know either. When we heard the sound of the signal blowing, we rushed here immediately, and we didn't see any other brothers on the way." After so many years of licking blood in the Warcraft Mountains, Hemon immediately realized something was wrong when he heard this, and said anxiously, "What? Why don't you hurry up?" Just as Hemon was mid-sentence, he saw a black shadow flying towards him. He quickly stretched out his hand to grab it, and then he groaned and was forced back 10 steps by the huge force. Without enough time to take care of his numb arms, Hemon lowered his head and looked at the items in his hands, and his pupils suddenly shrank. The flying object turned out to be a corpse. Moreover, the clothing on the corpse depicts a wolf head, which is obviously a member of their mercenary group. And this corpse was also known to Hemon. It was one of the few 7-star fighters in the wolf-head mercenary group. "Who is it? Dare to kill the people from my wolf-head mercenary group?" Upon seeing this, Hemon shouted in the direction where the corpse flew. "Ha, since you want to collect the reward from me, you must be prepared to be killed by me." Lin Feng sneered, slowly walked out of the jungle, and said lightly, looking at Lin Feng who was gradually revealing his figure, Hemon was startled by his young face. Immediately afterwards, the information on the reward order of his mercenary group suddenly appeared in his mind. Immediately, a touch of greed suddenly appeared in his eyes. When he entered the Warcraft Mountains to investigate, he had also been to that cave, so he naturally knew that the cave owner was quite powerful. Presumably, the things left in the cave are definitely not ordinary objects. It is most likely that they are Xian-level martial arts and fighting skills. Licking his lips, Hemon smiled sinisterly and said, "Boy, as long as you hand over the items obtained in the cave, I will let you go. How about it?" "Ha, you think I'm a fool? If you get something, will you let me go?" Lin Feng curled his lips and said amusedly, "Boy, since you refuse to eat the toast and drank the fine wine, then I will kill you, and it will be the same if you take something else." After saying that, a bloodthirsty smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Hemon smiled sinisterly, and stepped hard on the ground with the soles of his feet. Yellow-level advanced fighting skill, rock collision. Gray-white fighting energy surged through his body, and then, Hemon's skin began to turn gray-white, and at first glance, it looked like a rock. Then, like a giant monster, it rushed towards Lin Feng. Looking at Hemon who was charging towards him, Lin Feng smiled contemptuously. The 8-star fighter combined with the yellow-level martial arts fighting skills did not pose any threat to him. He raised his palms, and the surging fighting spirit blew the originally soft sleeves. With an explosion, Lin Feng quickly disappeared from the spot and sped towards Hemon. It is indeed a profound level fighting skill. Seeing Lin Feng's movements, Hemon's pupils shrank, and he immediately said excitedly, "It seems that the Xian-level fighting skills will finally be mine." "Oh!" Lin Feng struck Hemon's body with a palm, and the red fighting spirit collided with Hemon's rock-like skin. "Ah!" Hemon groaned and felt a force coming from the place where he was hit, passing through his skin and going deep into his body. His internal organs quickly burst under the tremendous pressure, and immediately, blood began to spurt out from the corners of his mouth. Obviously, Lin Feng's Xian-level fighting skills caused him great harm, but fortunately, Hemon's physique is extremely good. Although he knows that if the injuries in his body are not controlled, it will be very dangerous in the future, but under the temptation of high-level fighting skills, he temporarily suppressed it and said with a ferocious smile, "Boy, it seems that your fighting skills can't break my defense, so just admit defeat." "Oh, really? Then I have to increase my efforts now." Lin Feng smiled and glanced down at the broken white skin around his palm. He quickly raised his palm and used the red fire palm again, hitting Hemon violently. Chapter 26 Goodbye Little Medical Fairy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As Lin Feng released his fighting skills again, a click sound was heard from Hemon's body. Immediately afterwards, Hemon's real body under protection collided with the red fire palm. Boom! The huge force actually dented Hemon's chest, and a pair of eyeballs suddenly popped out. The clothes on the back were torn apart, and a palm print quickly appeared behind Hemon. The internal organs in Hemon's body were directly shaken to pieces by Lin Feng's strong fighting spirit. Then, the internal organ fragments mixed with blood were forced into the mouth with huge force, and then spewed out. Immediately afterwards, the body flew backwards rapidly, and did not stop until it smashed several tents. That's right. The little medical fairy thought of Lin Feng's identity as an alchemist and immediately understood. After all, if Hemon of the 8-star fighter was completely defeated, then the lower-level mercenaries like them would definitely not be able to escape. Thanks for continuing to vote for me. Thanks to Bing Tianhua for the recommendation vote. Occasionally, I would use a small crystal stick to pick up a little powder, put it under my pretty nose and sniff it gently, seeing the actions of those mercenaries. Lin Feng sneered softly and quickly chased after them. After a while, the remaining mercenaries were all killed by him. Immediately afterwards, the little medical fairy took out a small jade bottle from her arms, raid the base camp of the wolf-head mercenary group and catch him by surprise. Walking in the crowded town again, listening to the noise around me, sneaking into the manor, Lin Feng carefully avoided some patrolling guards. At the entrance of the manor, the defense is quite tight, with more than a dozen fully armed guards guarding it. After evading several waves of patrols, Lin Feng successfully arrived at a rather quiet room. However, although these 4 people seemed to be guarding, the glances they occasionally glanced at the room made it look like they were spying. Third Captain. Upon seeing this, several other mercenaries hurriedly took out healing medicine and surrounded him. Immediately afterwards, Lin Feng's expression became solemn and he continued, "This time, I want to settle the general ledger with the wolf-head mercenary group. I hope you can help me." The little medical fairy exclaimed in surprise. After finishing the application, he put down Lin Feng's palm and looked at the latter with some surprise. He glanced outside the door and waved gently to Lin Feng. "Thank you Lu Yifan for the recommendation ticket." Behind the room, facing a lake, Lin Feng carefully stood on the edge of the wooden string, and then slowly moved towards the open window. Lin Feng, who had been isolated from the world for 2 months, couldn't help but sigh. Human beings are indeed creatures that like to live in groups. He must join up with the little medical fairy as soon as possible, and then before Mu Shi knows that the 2 teams in the Warcraft Mountains have been wiped out. Looking around, Lin Feng could see a blurry figure behind the pink curtain. He took a few steps forward, opened the curtain, and cast his gaze in. Lin Feng's eyes met hers, smelling the body fragrance on her body, and joked with a smile, "Of course, how can I be willing to let you, a great beauty, suffer here? Huh, can you run away?" Walking to the small stage with a smile, Lin Feng sat down cross-legged and chuckled, "You didn't listen to my advice at first, but now you are convinced by me?" Humph. Thinking of what he said that day, the little medical fairy hummed softly. After a moment, he fumbled with the edge of the window with his palms and carefully leaned in. When Lin Feng heard this, he took a small step forward and looked at the little medical fairy standing pretty only 10 centimeters away from him. Looking at the little medical fairy who was concentrating on smearing it on his palm, Lin Feng chuckled and said, "Is this the antidote to the poisonous mist you filled in the room? It seems that she is not having a very good time, but this is just convenient for my plan." Seeing this situation, Lin Feng was sure in his heart that this was the little medical fairy's room. The soles of his feet landed quietly on the ground, and Lin Feng looked curiously at this peaceful and unique room. After observing for a while, he walked towards the direction with the most guards. Immediately, he remembered something and stood up quickly. As they approached, the mercenaries suddenly panicked when they saw the dent on Hemong's chest. He came to Lin Feng's side in a few short steps, gently shook his green onion finger, and whispered, "Don't say anything yet." With a chuckle in his heart, Lin Feng walked around to the back of the room. As he said this, he rolled his eyes at Lin Feng beside him, seeming to blame Lin Feng for mentioning this matter. However, when his eyes glanced at the smiling young man's face, the coldness in his eyes slowly faded away. "Hey, wasn't it because we weren't familiar with each other before?" He scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Then, he stared at Lin Feng and said with a smile, "Are you here specifically to save me this time?" After taking away Hemong's Neji, and then touching the bodies of other mercenaries, Lin Feng immediately turned around and left, heading towards Qingshan town. Then a drop of light red liquid dripped from it, and finally he picked up Lin Feng's palm and gently wiped it on it. She twitched her nose in embarrassment and said harshly, "I just didn't expect people's hearts to be so sinister." After the Mu Langtu mercenary group disseminated the information about the cave, the mercenaries who had been rescued by me in Qingshan town heard the news in my hands. There may be news about Xian-level martial arts and fighting skills, but he actually ignores my life-saving grace and thinks about getting those illusory high-level martial arts and fighting skills from me every day. Lin Feng quickly realized that this was poison and quickly stopped breathing. He quietly came to the front, only to find 4 guards standing at the door. On a small platform, a woman in a white dress was lowering her head and carefully preparing medicinal powder. Looking at the guards, Lin Feng frowned slightly and turned his eyes slightly. A more courageous mercenary put his trembling hand under Hemong's nose, and then shouted in panic, "The 3rd Regiment commander is dead, run away." I sighed with admiration in my heart, and the room seemed to be filled with a medicinal smell. After some medicinal powder was blended in again, the woman in the white dress seemed to be aware of it and suddenly raised her head. Turning his little head slightly, the little medical fairy rubbed his slightly blushing cheeks, curled his lips, and said angrily, "You are not serious. You tried to slash my face with a knife in the Warcraft Mountains before. I don't believe your nonsense. Well, tell me, why did you come to me?" "Hey, you found it?" Looking at the beauty in front of him, Lin Feng said confidently, "Have you forgotten, I am an alchemist. Although I have not specifically studied poisons, I can still guess a little based on the medicinal properties of the medicinal materials you use." He turned around and came to the side of the manor. After carefully looking around, he climbed in quietly. After a while, a rather unique small manor appeared in sight. Thanks for the monthly pass. If you were left alone in the wild for decades, would you still be able to speak? After turning a few streets, the noise gradually faded away, and Lin Feng walked slowly along this quiet path. Thanks for the recommendation vote. Thanks to Liang835 for the recommendation vote. Thanks to Bookfriend 2021030110414835747 for the recommendation vote. Thanks for ordering a cup of coffee and buying Rabbit-Chino's recommendation vote. Chapter 27 Boss Yao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Help you. But I don't know how to fight at all. Also, are you sure you can deal with Mu Shi? He is a 2-star fighting master. Moreover, I have heard during this time that Mu Shi seems to have a special ability. Fighting skills at the Xian level. The little Dr. Xian Dai frowned and said with the same solemn expression, hearing the worry of the little medical fairy, Lin Feng consoled him, in the Warcraft Mountains, Mu Li, He Meng and their team have all been killed by me. As for Mu Snake. After a pause, Lin Feng then said, you have obtained the 7-colored poison sutra for so long, so you must have researched something. If you can use poison to kill other mercenaries and create conditions for me to face Mu Shi alone, or it's 80% certain. Oh. I didn't expect you to be able to kill Hemon from the 8-star fighter. Well, that's fine, just wait for me. The little medical fairy looked at Lin Feng in front of him in surprise, not expecting that he had grown to this point. She immediately gritted her teeth. She also wanted to solve this matter completely. She nodded in agreement and turned around to start packing her things. Knock knock. Just as the little medical fairy was packing her things, there was a knock on the door. However, although the person outside the door meant to ask in his words, as soon as the knock on the door came, he pushed the door open. Immediately, a middle-aged man's voice came in, little medical fairy, have you made up your mind? As long as you hand over your Xuanjia martial arts and fighting skills, I will marry you. In this way, not only can I protect your safety, it also allows you to concentrate on studying pharmacology here. When the little medical fairy heard this, she felt ridiculed. Boss Yao is already over 50, and he still wants to marry her so that he can gain both personal and financial benefits? What's more, she has been in Wanya's hive for so many years. Doesn't she know the situation here? The reason why Wanyao Zhai is on an equal footing with the 3 major mercenary groups in Qingshan town is entirely due to the special status of doctors among the mercenaries. Boss Yao is a doctor by training, and he has never experienced any combat. Do you really think he can protect his own safety after getting the treasure? I'm afraid that if I get it in the morning, it will be destroyed by the 3 major mercenary groups in the afternoon. Boss Yao walked into the room and swept his eyes around the room, then his face changed slightly and he stopped at the young man in the room, his brows furrowed slightly. With a wave of his hand, the 4 guards behind him filed in, drew their weapons and pointed them at the 2 people in the room. Little medical fairy, who is this? The middle-aged man glanced at the little medical fairy who was packing his things with his head down, and asked with a smile on his face. Lin Feng. After hearing what the middle-aged man just said, Lin Feng's eyes flashed with murderous intent, but his tone was calm. Lin Feng. Weren't you chased into the Warcraft Mountains by the Wolf-Head mercenary group? Hearing this, Boss Yao's face was stunned, and then a touch of joy flashed across his eyes, and he smiled politely. I didn't expect that little brother Lin Feng is so powerful, and he can actually survive the pursuit of the Wolf-Head mercenary group. Coming out of the Warcraft Mountains, I'm really impressed. Just luck. Lin Feng raised his eyes casually, smiled and said, I want to go out with the little medical fairy later, can't you let me go? His face twitched slightly. Boss Yao smiled and said, meeting his fate. Since my little brother has come to our Wanyao Zhai, I naturally have to stay for a while. What I like most is to make friends with people like your little brother. With that said, the middle-aged man took a step back again and waved his hand slightly. Several guards immediately understood, quickly stepped forward and closed the door, and immediately stood there, blocking the door tightly. Seeing the guard's smooth movements, Boss Yao nodded with satisfaction. he had long heard that Lin Feng was carrying the treasure he had obtained from the cave, and now that he had brought it to his door on his own initiative, it was naturally impossible for him to leave easily. A 9-star fighter and 4 4-star fighters just want to block my door. They are really desperate. Seeing the actions of several people, Lin Feng sneered and glanced at the little medical fairy who had already packed her things, signaling her to deal with several 4-star fighters. Afterwards, Lin Feng disappeared instantly and rushed towards Boss Yao. Quick, stop him. Boss Yao was originally a doctor, and after many years of peace, his fighting qualities were naturally terrible. Now seeing Lin Feng approaching, he instinctively called for the guards around him. However, when he looked around, he found that the guard beside him had fainted at some point. There was no time to release his fighting skills, so Boss Yao had to cross his hands, intending to directly resist Lin Feng's fighting skills. Anyway, according to the information he got, Lin Feng was just a more powerful 2-star fighter. Once you can resist this fighting technique and get used to it, will you be unable to defeat Lin Feng? As soon as he came into contact with Lin Feng, Boss Yao felt a burning sensation in his arms, and then, severe pain spread from his arms. Immediately afterwards, I felt my body become light and my feet quickly left the wooden floor. Immediately afterwards, the scenery around me also quickly retreated, as Boss Yao made heavy contact with the door of the room. Immediately, after a crackling sound, Boss Yao and the door disappeared at the same time. However, Boss Yao also knew that Lin Feng and the little medical fairy were going out soon, so he thoughtfully opened the door for them with his back, but Boss Yao, who helped open the door, also fell several meters away along with wooden fragments. Lin Feng retracted his palm and said to the little medical fairy beside him, "Now that the trouble is solved, let's go." Boss Yao defeated the 9-star fighter with one move. It seems that you can indeed fight against that moose snake. Seeing Lin Feng's powerful fighting power, most of the worries in the little medical fairy's heart suddenly disappeared. Lin Feng tilted his head slightly and said, "Don't be too careless." Although Boss Yao is a 9-star fighter, his actual combat power is not as good as that of Hemong's 8-star fighter. After saying that, Lin Feng took the lead and walked out. "Humph, I can't even praise you," he snorted, and the little medical fairy hurriedly followed. Cough cough. Seeing Lin Feng coming to his side, Boss Yao on the ground wanted to say something, but as soon as he opened his mouth, the blood in his body quickly rushed into his mouth, blocking the words he wanted to say, and only a meaningless hum came out. When Lin Feng saw this, he knew that he wanted to ask for mercy, but he was too lazy to talk nonsense to him. He kicked Boss Yao hard on the Adam's apple and ended his life. After all, when he wanted to forcefully marry the little medical fairy before, Lin Feng had already thought about where he would be buried, because the little medical fairy is his chosen woman, and he cannot allow others to get involved. Then Lin Feng knelt down and took away the Neji. He found that there were many good medicinal materials inside, so he put them away and took the little fairy doctor to the headquarters of the Wolf Head Mercenary Group. Chapter 28 Moose Snake. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who is it? Stop. Do you know where this place is? At the entrance of the Wolf Head Mercenary Group, several guards saw Lin Feng rushing in and shouted hurriedly. However, he was quickly put down, and then Lin Feng continued to walk inside. At this time, a skinny man just came out of the station. When he saw this scene, he immediately shouted, "Where did this young boy come from, dare to come to our Wolf Head Mercenary Group to cause trouble? 9-star fighter, that must be Ganmu." Lin Feng felt the strength of the skinny man, recalled the information about the Wolf Head Mercenary Group, and thought to himself. Immediately afterwards, the figure suddenly sprang out like a cheetah and rushed away. "Good boy, how dare you attack me, a 9-star fighter? I will hang your head at the entrance of the town for everyone to look up to." At this time, Ganmu obviously did not realize the seriousness of the problem. He smiled ferociously, his light green fighting spirit surged quickly, and he immediately faced him. Under Lin Feng's full force, the red fighting spirit quickly condensed in the palm of his hand, and then faced Ganmu. As soon as the two of them came into contact, Ganmu's pupils shrank suddenly and he glanced at Lin Feng in disbelief. A sentence quickly appeared in his mind, "You were careless." Immediately, his body shot backward uncontrollably, and Lin Feng had no intention of stopping the attack. He strode forward and ran quickly, hitting Ganmu in the face with a gravel fist before he hit the ground. Boom! With the help of Lin Feng's fist, Ganmu accelerated again and blasted towards the house behind. Boom! As Ganmu collided violently with the green brick wall, the huge sound immediately attracted all the mercenaries not far away. What happened? Who are you, who dares to come and cause trouble with our wolf-head mercenary group? Well, kill that kid. The mercenaries saw a person wearing the uniform of their own mercenary group embedded in the wall, and then looked at Lin Feng aside. They didn't know what had happened, and they immediately cursed. At this time, some mercenaries came to Ganmu, pulled him out of the wall and took a closer look. They suddenly said in horror, "No. The 2nd Regiment leader is dead." What? Impossible. The 2nd captain is a master of the 9-star fighter. In Qingshan town, except for the captains of the 3 major mercenary groups, who can be sure to defeat him? That's right, I'm afraid you didn't overdo it at Suihua Tower last night and got dazzled. At this time, a mercenary with a good memory observed Lin Feng carefully, and then exclaimed, "Wait, he is Lin Feng." What? Lin Feng? The leader said that if he is caught, he will be rewarded with 100,000 gold coins. After knowing Lin Feng's identity, everyone rushed over and surrounded Lin Feng. However, no one dared to go up first, thinking of Ganmu who was still cold on the ground. They all looked at each other, hoping someone would rush out and take the lead. "What are you bastards doing, making so much noise?" When everyone was at a loss, a middle-aged man with a broad face, big ears, and a beard came over from the backyard and shouted angrily. Seeing the person coming, a mercenary hurriedly ran forward and said flatteringly, "Captain, that boy is the Lin Feng you are looking for." What? Hearing this, Mu Shi couldn't believe it. She didn't expect that Lin Feng would dare to come to the door. Shouldn't he be being chased by his son and that guy Hemon? But when he thought of the treasure on Lin Feng's body, his face suddenly became happy. Walking from the road vacated by the mercenaries to the encirclement, he looked at Lin Feng who was alone and laughed. "Boy, I don't care what confidence you have to dare to come here, but in front of a fighting master, any fighter is vulnerable. What's more, I have dozens of fighter-level subordinates here." As Mu Shi finished speaking, more and more mercenaries ran out of the nearby building and joined the ranks surrounding Lin Feng. Apparently, seeing Lin Feng arriving alone, he was also afraid of any traps and called all his other mercenaries over. Seeing that his men had all arrived, Mu Shi nodded with satisfaction. Being able to sit in this position was naturally inseparable from his caution. After all, in his eyes, morality is something external, and life-saving is the first priority. Looking around, he saw members of the wolf-head mercenary group, who had already surrounded him 3 levels inside and 3 levels outside. Lin Feng took out an antidote from Neji and took it. He suddenly smiled mysteriously and said, "Really? But I don't believe it." Then, he shouted to the sky, "Little medical fairy." Violent. As Lin Feng finished speaking, an eagle's cry suddenly sounded in the distant sky. A huge shadow swooped down from the sky, and then appeared more than 10 meters away from everyone. A lot of white powder was poured out by a beautiful shadow above the blue eagle. Suddenly, the sky above the empty courtyard was covered by white powder slowly falling. "Don't worry about that, kill him first." Seeing the sudden change, Mu Shi frowned and shouted coldly. Hearing his shout, the mercenaries who were a little flustered suddenly rushed towards Lin Feng who was already close at hand again. Looking at the mercenaries rushing from all directions, Lin Feng raised his head and saw that the layer of white powder in the sky was almost falling. He clenched his fists hard and turned into a phantom, constantly attacking the mercenaries coming from all directions with his fists, elbows and calves. Suddenly, the first few mercenaries who rushed up suddenly shot out backwards, knocking down many mercenaries behind them. Just when some mercenaries from behind wanted to step forward to support them, white powder filled the sky quietly. Lin Feng saw this and hurriedly used his gravel fist to smash the ground. The fighting skills collided with the earth, and with an explosion, the surging energy was blocked by the earth and had to be ejected in all directions. While in the air, it was mixed with falling powder and rushed towards the surrounding mercenaries. Ahem! The mercenaries only felt a violent air flow mixed with a large amount of powder coming towards them. When they accidentally inhaled the powder, in an instant, a large number of coughs echoed throughout the entire wolf-head mercenary group station. Swallowed by the white powder, Moose Snake also inhaled some of the powder. Then, he felt a discomfort coming from his body and shouted hurriedly, "This powder is poisonous, everyone, stay back." However, the mercenaries on the side did not have the energy to carry out Mu Shi's orders. They only felt a sense of dizziness, and then fell to the ground. With a plop. Humph! Seeing this, Mu Shi snorted coldly and waved his arm vigorously. Suddenly, a burst of energy dispersed the white powder around him. "You little bastard, how dare you use poison?" Looking at the corpse-like mercenary on the ground in front of him, Mu Shi shouted with cold eyes. You are such an old bastard and you can bully the young with your strength. What's wrong if I put some poison on you?" Lin Feng sneered. "No matter what happens today, you will die." Thanks for the monthly pass, thanks to Bing Tianyue for the recommendation vote, thanks to Huan Xingchen for the recommendation vote, thank you Lu Yifan for the recommendation ticket, thanks to UD_BB for the recommendation vote. Thanks to book friend 20210301104148357470 for the recommendation vote. Thanks to book friend 202112111719358842 for the recommendation vote. Chapter 29 Fighting Moose Snake Alone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With a loud shout, Mu Shi stared gloomily at Lin Feng not far away. The fighting spirit in the body began to surge rapidly under the stimulation of Huang Jie's advanced skills. On the surface of the body, light blue fighting energy gradually broke out. Finally, a thin cyan gauze of fighting energy is formed outside the body. The energy gauze that catalyzes fighting spirit into possession is the sign of a strong fighting master. This kind of energy gauze can not only enhance the owner's defense, speed, and attack, it can also better absorb energy from the outside world to supplement the consumption in the host's body. Therefore, almost every fighting master's first action during a battle is to summon Dou Qi Shai. Although Lin Feng is now at the pinnacle of fighting, if he summons the Dou Qi gauze, it can only be barely formed in some parts of the body. Moreover, the increases in defense, speed, and attack are also negligible. After all, fighters and fighters are two different levels. And the gap between them is still quite huge. Therefore, if Lin Feng wants to be as thorough as Moose Snake in summoning, he will need to become a fighting master. Old bastard, if you want to kill me, it's still early for you to do so. Looking at Moose Snake who summoned the energy gauze, Lin Feng let out a breath, and a look of solemnity slowly appeared on his face. No matter how nice he said it, the other party was the strongest opponent he had ever encountered so far. Even the second-level monster from before was far inferior to Moose Snake. After all, that monster was not only seriously injured, but also had a low IQ, so he could kill it with a trick. But none of these conditions exist for the Moose Snake in front of him. Mu Shi clenched her right hand into a fist, stepped hard on the ground, and disappeared instantly with the help of the recoil. With the violent sound of Dou Qi gauze rubbing against the air, in the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lin Feng. Seeing this, Lin Feng also hurriedly released his fighting skills to resist Moose Snake's attack. Immediately, the two began to come and go, attacking each other. However, Lin Feng resisted more attacks from Moose Snake. After all, Lin Feng was still much weaker than Moose Snake at the Dou Shi realm. After about 10 minutes of fighting, Mu Shi seized the gap in Lin Feng's defense and punched the latter in the abdomen. With a groan, he was pushed back 4 or 5 meters by the strong force before he could steady his steps. Holding back the pain, Lin Feng gasped heavily, his eyes not daring to leave Mu Shi who was not far away, to be wary of the latter's sneak attack. His hands were also out of his control because of too many fighting skills, and they were shaking violently. Moose Snake on the side was much better, just slightly out of breath. However, the look in Lin Feng's eyes became increasingly fiery. Through the battle just now, he could sense that the technique Lin Feng practiced was definitely Xuanjie. If this were not the case, it would be impossible for the amount of fighting energy in Lin Feng's body to consume nearly 70% of the fighting energy in his body. Moreover, the palm technique he used was also of Xian level. Otherwise, how could Lin Feng, who was at the peak of his strength as a fighter, be able to withstand the yellow-level high-level fighting skills unleashed by a 2-star fighter like him? Feeling the lack of fighting spirit in the cyclone, Lin Feng's eyes hardened. knowing that he could not go on like this and the battle must be resolved as soon as possible. Take out a qi returning pill and a qi increasing pill from the Neji, Feng. Xianbu. Seeing Lin Feng take out the elixir, Mu Shi immediately secretly thought something was wrong and hurriedly used his body and fighting skills to stop him. However, Lin Feng kept staring at the ladder, hurriedly jumped back a few steps, and quickly drank the pill in his hand. When the elixir enters the abdomen, its effect occurs quickly, and the fighting energy in the body that was depleted due to heavy consumption quickly recovers. Moreover, with the help of the second-grade qi increasing pill, Lin Feng's aura instantly surged a lot, and he was able to compete with some new fighting masters. He activated the fighting spirit that filled his body again, and punched Mu Li, who came forward. Then he bounced back a certain distance, took out his spear, and took the initiative to attack Mu's snake. Seeing this situation, Mu Shi cursed secretly, and hurriedly took out a big knife and charged forward with all his strength. Obviously, he wanted to quickly get rid of Lin Feng before his fighting spirit was exhausted. Lin Feng had the same idea. The qi-enhancing pill he took was obtained from exchanging with others when he was in Black Rock City. Although it can temporarily improve the level, after the effect of the medicine wears off, it will make him fall into a weak state. He must kill Mu's snake before that. Dang dang. Since both of them wanted to end the fight quickly, this confrontation was much more intense than before. The two sides were going back and forth. For a while, Lin Feng's spear tip turned slightly and turned into thousands of afterimages to stab him. For a while, Mu's snake used his body fighting skills to avoid the spear tip, and the big knife came straight towards Lin Feng. After fighting for a while, Mu Shi felt less than 50% of the fighting spirit in the cyclone, and a trace of cruelty flashed in his eyes. Fighting energy surged wildly in the body, and the light cyan fighting energy attached to the broadsword, as if a layer of cyan energy film was attached to the blade. Wind blade dance. After taking a deep breath, the sword in Mu Shi's hand suddenly began to dance wildly. Afterimages of blue swords appeared one after another in front of them. It looked like a dense network of knives had formed in front of Mu's snake. This wind blade dance is the most advanced fighting skill that Mu Shi can master, and is at the lower level of Xian level. With this fighting skill, he has won the title of the strongest man in Qingshan town several times. Now, he didn't know when the effects of Lin Feng's combat effectiveness enhancing elixir would wear off, but the cautious Mu Snake chose to use his strongest move in order to avoid running out of fighting spirit and being consumed to death. The green sword light came to the eyes in the blink of an eye, but at the moment when it was about to come into contact with the green light, a pair of purple wings appeared in vain behind Lin Feng, flying into the air at high speed, barely missing Mu Snake's wind blade. Dou Wang. Seeing this scene, Mu Shi's pupils shrank suddenly and she shouted in horror. Then he quickly realized, no, you can't be the Dou Wang. Otherwise, you wouldn't have fought with me for so long. However, Mu Shi then suddenly turned around and ran wildly outside the Wolfhead mercenary group station. Although he didn't know why Lin Feng was able to use fighting energy to transform into wings, he had just used Xuanjie fighting skills. The fighting spirit in his body was less than 10%, and he was obviously not suitable to continue fighting with Lin Feng. Want to run? Is it possible? Seeing Mu Shi's movements, Lin Feng sneered, and immediately his grudge gathered on the spear. Soon, a giant red energy lion slowly appeared above the spear. Crazy lion. With Lin Feng's loud shout, his wings suddenly shook, and with the sound of breaking through the air, in the blink of an eye, the blazing giant arrived in the sky above Mu's snake. Thanks to the veteran driver who can't drive for the recommendation ticket. Thank you Joshuan Monk for the recommendation ticket. Thanks to bookfriend 20180612002651100 for the recommendation vote. Thank you Lu Yifan for the recommendation ticket. Thank you Void God for the recommendation ticket. Chapter 30 Small Valley. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You little bastard, I'll fight you. Looking at the violent energy above his head, a trace of fear flashed in Mu Shi's eyes. Then, he was quickly filled with madness. He raised his big knife and slashed upward. Boom! The energy giant lion, carrying the violent fire attribute, swallowed the snake below directly. Then there was a loud noise, and the shock wave generated by the explosion of the giant lion shook the bricks on the ground into powder, and then quickly splashed around along with the soil below. The moose snake was also thrown away like tatters. causing the hall in the middle of the station to collapse. When the dust and fog dissipated, Lin Feng retracted his purple cloud wings and walked to Mu Shi. Seeing Mu Shi paralyzed on the ground, with blood constantly spurting out from his mouth, his eyes stared at him with extremely resentment, and he said softly, "Your son Mu Li is already down there to help you find the way, so you can go with peace of mind." Cough cough. After hearing Lin Feng's words, Mu Shi, who was half dead, suddenly became excited and seemed to be cursing something. However, Lin Feng was not interested in this. He swung his spear and the sharp tip easily broke through Mu's snake's skull, crushing it like a watermelon. After losing his head, Mu Shi's body twitched violently a few times, and then slowly went limp. After confirming that he was dead, he skillfully pulled down the ring. Then, Lin Feng waved to the little medical fairy above him, looking at the safe and sound young man below. Above the sky, the little doctor's fairy hand gently covered his rosy mouth, and his pretty face was filled with shock. After a while, the beautiful eyes glowed with a strange light. Staring at the young man below, the jade hand gently stroked the blue eagle's feathers, and then controlled it, slowly circling and landing in the courtyard. "I didn't expect you to be able to kill Mu's snake. I was already prepared to pick you up and escape." Glancing at the headless corpse on the ground in the distance, the little medical fairy looked at Lin Feng, who jumped and landed firmly on the back of Lan Ning, lightly opened her pink lips and said, "Huh, if it weren't for the help of the elixir, it might really be possible as you said." Ahem. As he said that, Lin Feng felt a pain in his abdomen and couldn't help but feel helpless. He was injured in the front of the stomach by a monster, just a few days ago, and now he was injured by Mu's snake again, and the wound is still unfinished. "Are you okay?" Seeing this scene, the little doctor's fairy hand hurriedly patted his back and asked worriedly. Lin Feng waved his hand, looked at the messy station, and said, "It's okay, just give it some treatment and it will be fine. Now leave quickly. I just took a pill that temporarily enhanced my strength, and I will soon enter a period of weakness. It is good." Responding softly, the little medical fairy's beautiful eyes swept around the sleeping mercenaries on the ground. With Mu's snake's death, the mercenaries no longer had a leader, and they scattered like trees. The wolf-head mercenary group will inevitably be annexed by other forces in the future. Sighing softly, as soon as Mu Shi died, all the past grudges disappeared. With her red lips pursed slightly, the little medical fairy whispered, "It's time to leave." Then with a wave of his jade hand, the blue eagle let out an eagle cry, then slowly spiraled into the sky. The blue eagle circled in the sky, then quickly spread its wings and flew past. After a while, it disappeared into the blue sky. Not long after the two left, the news of Mu Shi's death quickly spread throughout Qingshan town. Everyone was shocked by this shocking news. Especially when they knew that the one who killed Mu's snake was the young man who got the treasure in the cave together with the little fairy doctor. The greed in front suddenly disappeared without a trace. After all, with such a disparity in strength, how could they have the courage to grab the treasure? However, with the death of Mu's snake, without the command of the helmsman, this major force that used to dominate Qingshan town was quickly swallowed up by other parties. After Lan Ning left Qingshan town, the little medical fairy looked down at the purple skin covered with ointment, and gently pulled down her shirt with her jade hands to cover Lin Feng's injured abdomen. He casually gathered up the blown hair around his ears and looked at the young man beside him, who was weak and lying on Lan Ying's back due to the side effects of the elixir. Shen hesitated for a moment and asked, "Now that you have taken revenge, what are you going to do next?" "Next step. Find a place to break through the Dou Shi first, improve your strength, and then go out and jump around." Feeling the cool feeling coming from the ointment on his abdomen, Lin Feng put his hands under the back of his head and said lazily. Hearing this, the little medical fairy's beautiful eyes lit up and she said, "If you want to break through the Dou Master, then I know a good place. The energy there is extremely rich, and it must be suitable for you to break through." Hearing her words, Lin Feng's heart moved, and he quickly guessed where it was, and said with a smile, "Then let me see where it is." Seeing Lin Feng agree, the little medical fairy immediately directed Blue Eagle to a place with extremely abundant energy. Lin Feng was no stranger to this place. This was the basin where medicinal herbs grew everywhere when he followed the herb collection team, but this time, under the guidance of the little medical fairy, he flew directly from high altitude into the depths of the basin. Landing slowly in the depths of the basin, Lin Feng took a deep breath of air and was immediately refreshed by the rich energy filling the valley. How's it going? Is this place good? The small valley here is completely isolated from the outside, and there is thick fog in the sky, making it extremely hidden. If Xiaolan hadn't accidentally broken in, I probably wouldn't have discovered this place. Strange place. Looking at Lin Feng's admiring expression, the little medical fairy smiled slightly proudly. It's really great. I'm practicing here. I believe that within a few months, I will be able to break through to the realm of a fighting master. Lin Feng nodded. Such a good training place is not something you can come across casually. His eyes slowly swept across the valley filled with light energy mist. In the valley, various precious medicinal herbs grew. The scent of medicine mixed in the mist makes people feel relaxed and happy. Seeing Lin Feng say this, the little medical fairy smiled slightly, blew a bamboo whistle at the blue eagle, and let it fly freely. Then he led Lin Feng and walked to a corner of the small valley, pointing to a hut there. He smiled and said, "This is what I built before. Let's live in it during this period." Even though it's a straw hut, it's a happy life with a beautiful woman living in it. Glancing across the hut, Lin Feng nodded, turned his head and looked at the jade-like smooth profile of the little medical fairy, and couldn't help but smile and tease. Hearing this, the pretty face of the little medical fairy blushed slightly, and she rolled her eyes at him. Then he danced his little fist and hummed softly, "It's best not to think that I'm weak and you dare to mess with me." Thanks to Lucy_boy for the recommendation vote. Thanks to Bing Tianyue for the recommendation vote. Thanks to bookfriend 20200531074735529 for the recommendation vote. If you can, please give the author a vote. Chapter 31 Disaster Poison Activation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a small valley isolated from the world, Lin Feng and the little medical fairy lived peacefully here for half a month. During this period, thanks to Lin Feng's initiative, his relationship with the little fairy doctor has become much closer. However, Dou Shi's breakthrough was more difficult than Lin Feng imagined during the period of training in the valley. Although the fighting spirit in the body became more and more powerful and condensed, the feeling of breakthrough was still delayed. Lin Feng was helpless in this situation. While continuing to practice, he would also use the medicinal materials obtained from Boss Yao's Neji and the medicinal materials in the valley to improve his alchemy skills. Whenever Lin Feng was refining medicine, the one who was most active was the little medical fairy. As long as Lin Feng refines medicine, she will definitely be there. However, the little medical fairy did not have sex for nothing. She was responsible for Lin Feng's food and old clothes these days. At night, Lin Feng stopped meditating and walked slowly outside the hut. Due to his physical condition, the little medical fairy's heart has become a little sensitive at this time. After traveling through time, he just wanted to use his advantage to find some treasures, then go to a suitable place to buy a mansion, and then marry a few wives and concubines to make his life better. Early the next morning, Lin Feng walked out of the hut and saw that the door to the little medical fairy's room was still closed. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. She was usually very positive, so she shouted towards the hut, looking at the pits corroded by the poisonous mist on the front end of the firewood in his hand. He couldn't help but smack his lips. At this time, she wore a light green cloth scarf on her head, just like a beautiful little village girl. So you must become stronger before you can take revenge. As for now, let's go to bed first. Tomorrow I will try to refine the second-grade Qi restoration pill. Remember to come and see it. Okay. Sure enough, it turned on, that even though they were several meters apart, Lin Feng still felt a little uncomfortable and hurriedly took a few steps back. Sitting on the stone nearby, Lin Feng looked at the little medical fairy who was humming a song softly in his pretty nose while he was busy, and couldn't help but smile. He ran to the side in a few steps, picked up a piece of firewood, and opened the wooden door of the little doctor's curvaceous house. Suddenly, a large amount of gray smoke floated out of the room. Immediately, he turned back to the fire in front of him in confusion, watching the wood make a crackling sound under the heat of the flames. Little medical fairy, I'm going to make some medicine. Why don't you come and watch? But thinking of the contents of the 7-colored poison sutra, his eyes couldn't help but dim. Maybe, she doesn't deserve to have such a life. after all, he is a respected alchemist, but he is, after a long time, he suddenly thought that Lin Feng was eager to break through the Dou master these days, so he turned to look at the latter and asked curiously, Lin Feng, what is your purpose of becoming stronger? Recalling the contents of the 7-colored poison sutra, the little medical fairy whispered softly. After reading it, he put the scroll on the small table in the middle of the room, and immediately sat on the wooden bench next to it, watching while waiting for the little medical fairy to wake up. Sitting on the chair, listening to the weak and soft whimpering sound, Lin Feng felt a little heavy. After looking at the position of the moon, I found that it was getting late, so I walked into the hut and rested. Rolling her eyes at him, the little medical fairy said angrily, whenever you met me before, you would scream and kill me. With that kind of personality, no one would dare to bully you. Here, eat. After a moment, seeing that the little medical fairy still didn't respond to him, Lin Feng suddenly raised his head. Is it possible that the originally rosy pretty face was now filled with strangely colorful colors? Seeing Lin Feng, the little medical fairy turned her head and smiled playfully at him. Scanning the room, he saw the little medical fairy closing her eyes tightly on the bed. But he just happened to meet the little medical fairy who was returning from collecting medicines with a basket of flowers. The jade hand moved slightly, glancing at the dark poison from the corner of his eyes, and a hint of bitterness gradually appeared in the corner of his mouth. This poisonous body cannot be covered. After the smoke in the room completely dissipated, Lin Feng took an antidote pill and walked in, but later, after Xiao Yanqiang bought the sucking palm, he became more and more hungry for power. Just as Lin Feng was deep in thought, a jade arm holding a wooden bowl suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. Immediately, a gentle female voice came to his ears. I didn't control myself. I really deserve to die. At this moment, he actually hoped that this kind of life could continue forever. After a while, the little medical fairy on the bed finally slowly opened her eyes with her eyes closed tightly. After a while, Shenling smiled bitterly and said, I don't know. Maybe it's to avoid being bullied. As time goes by, the colorful colors on the little medical fairy's cheeks are gradually fading away. Looking at the lovely person in front of him, Lin Feng took the broth and began to swallow it in big mouthfuls. Picking up the colorful scroll on the ground, he glanced past the poisonous prescriptions in front and came to the last paragraph of text. Then, Lin Feng thought of what happened in Wutan City, sighed softly, and said, more than a year ago, I picked up a volume of Xian-level fighting skills, but it was discovered by the young patriarch of another family. After being threatened by him, I had no choice but to agree to his plan and sold it to him for 100 gold coins. He turned his head slightly and looked at Lin Feng, who was feeling a little depressed. He didn't expect that he would have such an experience. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he said speechlessly, why do you keep bringing that up? The Ernan poison body is a strange poisonous body that can quickly increase its strength by swallowing poison. The way to identify the Ernan poison body is that there is a small 7-colored hidden line in the lower abdomen. The 7-colored line will follow the content contained in the body. The poisonous concentration grows, and when the colorful lines extend to the heart, it is the strongest moment of the poisonous body of Ernan, and at the same time, it will also suffer the pain of 10,000 poisons. Seeing Lin Feng who was defenseless against him, a hint of warmth flashed in his eyes, then he squatted down, rolled up his long sleeves, lit a fire under the stone stove, and arranged all the cooking things in an orderly manner. You're hungry, I'm going to cook now. Wiping his mouth, Lin Feng put down the empty bowl in his hand and looked at the little medical fairy with some doubts. He didn't expect that she would ask such a question. That man is so abominable. He actually bought Xian-level fighting skills for 100 gold coins. However, when he thought of the Ernan poison body, his original smile suddenly disappeared, his brows furrowed slightly, and he murmured softly, I don't know if that thing can suppress the Ernan poison body, but it's not easy to find that thing. After a while, the bitterness gradually increased, and the little medical fairy suddenly pulled the quilt to cover his face, and some intermittent whimpering sounds came from the quilt. Become stronger so you won't be bullied. Okay, he hopes that the little medical fairy will activate his physique, so that with the relationship between the two of them, he will have a strong background in a few years, but he didn't want to see the little medical fairy's expression at this time. Maybe he was both responsible and independent. He stood up slowly, sat on the edge of the bed, and gently patted the little medical fairy's body wrapped in quilt with his palm. Sensing someone touching her, the quilt was suddenly lifted open. And she looked at the young man sitting beside the bed. Chapter 32 Two Solutions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 32 Two Solutions. The little medical fairy's beautiful eyes widened a lot, and she quickly wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes, and said softly, "Why did you come in?" "I came in when you were unconscious." Lin Feng smiled softly. Hearing this, the pretty face of the little medical fairy changed slightly, and the black poison clenched in her hand quietly retracted into the bed. After a moment, he suddenly seemed to remember something and asked hurriedly, "You didn't touch me, did you?" Lin Feng said with a smile, "If I really wanted to take advantage of someone's danger, I would have done it in the Warcraft Mountains before. And now you are at least 2 months pregnant." "No, I'm not talking about this. I mean, you didn't touch my body, did you?" Her pretty face suddenly turned red, and the little medical fairy quickly waved her hand and whispered, "Don't worry." Seeing the little fairy doctor's anxious and incoherent expression, Lin Feng stopped teasing her. Hearing this, the little medical fairy breathed a sigh of relief and rolled up her slender legs. He rested his snow-white chin on his knees and said softly, "I'm fine, there was just something wrong when I was preparing the medicine." "You have activated the poisonous body of disaster. Please be careful in the future. Some forces like to collect strange physiques like yours." Hearing Lin Feng's words, the little medical fairy was stunned at first, and then her delicate body suddenly tensed up, and she stared at him with an ugly face. "How do you know?" "Look at this, and don't forget, I am an alchemist, so naturally I know more than ordinary people." Picking up the colorful poison sutra on the table and shaking it, Lin Feng immediately revealed his identity as an alchemist. It is so convenient that when other information about the poisonous body of Anan is revealed later, it will appear more reasonable. Hearing this, the little medical fairy smiled sadly, bit her red lips and said, "Then you are afraid of me too, right?" Looking at the girl in front of him who had become a little inferior due to the disaster and poisonous body, Lin Feng stepped forward and gently wiped away the tears on the delicate cheeks of the little medical fairy. With a warm smile on his lips, he gently held her in his arms and said softly, "If you were afraid, I would have just run away by myself. Don't you know what I am thinking?" For the first time in her life, she was held in the arms of a man. Her delicate body suddenly stiffened, and she subconsciously began to struggle. Lin Feng put one hand on her back and the other around her seductive waist. He slightly increased his strength so that the two of them were completely pressed together. With her head buried in Lin Feng's arms, the little medical fairy couldn't help but soften when she felt the masculine aura coming from him. "Have you really thought about it? I am a poison master hated by everyone on this continent." After a while, the muffled voice of the little medical fairy came from Lin Feng's arms. Feeling the soft and delicate body in his arms, Lin Feng said, "I don't care about this. Besides, there is no way to control the evil body." After a long silence, the little medical fairy's voice came again, "Don't lie to me, it's written in the 7-color poison sutra, there is no way to deal with the disaster and poison the body." Lin Feng shook his head with a smile and said, "Not necessarily. Although that senior is stronger than me, he really doesn't know as much about the poison body as I do." When the little fairy doctor heard this, he thought that Lin Feng was an alchemist, and maybe he had seen it in some classics. Hope suddenly ignited. He raised his little head suddenly, looked at Lin Feng, and asked urgently, "What can I do?" He calmed her down and replied, "As far as I know, there are 2 ways to solve the problem of poisonous body, the method of poison elixir and the poisonous fire of the netherworld." When the little medical fairy heard this, he carefully reviewed what he had learned in his mind. After a long time, he still didn't find these 2 pieces of information, so he wondered. The method of poisonous elixir and the poisonous fire of the netherworld. What are these? As far as I know, the poison pill method requires 3 things. One is 3 kinds of strange fire, the second is the demon core of the 7th level sky poison scorpion dragon beast, and the third is the saliva of the bodhisattva. However, this poison pill method requires there is an old fox. If there is a chance, I will find a way to help you get it. As for the second one, I guessed it myself. After pondering for a while, Lin Feng said uncertainly, the essence of the outbreak of the poison body is that it absorbs a large amount of poisons, causing the toxins in the body of the body owner to increase too quickly, and then the physical strength of the body owner increases at a faster rate, caused by the growth rate of toxins in the body that is far unable to keep up. The nether poison fire, which is ranked 20th on the alien fire ranking, is fed by various toxins. If you can use it to absorb the excess toxins in your body, I think you can control the outbreak of the poisonous body. Listening to this, the little medical fairy's originally somewhat hopeful expression turned into even more disappointed. Although she didn't know what strange fire and Bodhi's incarnation saliva were, she knew about the 7th level magic beast, that is a magical beast equivalent to the level of a human Dou. There may not be a strong person of that level in the entire Gemma Empire. For her, obtaining the magic core of a 7th level magic beast is even more difficult than climbing to the sky. Seeing the expression on the little medical fairy's face, Lin Feng stepped forward and patted her shoulder and said, "Don't worry, I will help you, and for you, as long as you have enough poison, it is not difficult to advance to Dou. You are a noble alchemist, and I am destined to become a poison master that everyone shouts about. Is it worth your help?" Lin Feng grabbed the little medical fairy's shoulders with both hands and said solemnly, "In my eyes, whether you are a poison master or others, there is no sin in power. The only ones who are guilty are those who use power." Hearing this, the little medical fairy took the initiative to lay her head in Lin Feng's arms. After a long time, a faint voice came, "Thank you." Looking at the little beauty in his arms, Lin Feng couldn't help but express a little gratitude to the poisonous body of Anan. If it hadn't made the little medical fairy feel inferior, it's really not that easy for him to develop to this point with the little medical fairy. He tightened her delicate body and said softly, "We too, do we still need to say this? Now, what you have to do is to improve your realm. After all, those things are not so easy to obtain." Ever since the little medical immortal activated the poisonous body of disaster, his fighting spirit level has been rising day by day. In just over 2 months, he was promoted to Dou Master ahead of Lin Feng, who was at the peak of Dou Fighter. You must know that the little medical fairy was promoted to the fighter not long before Lin Feng fought against Mu Shi. It was only about 3 months ago. This kind of speed is far inferior to the people of the ancient races. Lin Feng, who had been stagnant for more than 2 months and failed to break through the Dou Shi, saw this scene and his eyes turned red with envy. However, he has gained something in the past 2 months. Not long ago, he and the little medical fairy had officially established a relationship. In the early morning, in a cave in the valley, Lin Feng took out the medicine cauldron under the watchful eyes of the little medical fairy. Afterwards, he took out the medicinal materials needed for refining the medicine one by one from the Neji and placed them beside him, slowly closing his eyes. He reviewed in his mind the recipe for refining the elixir and the required heat for refining the elixir. He slowly opened his eyes, and then skillfully poured fighting energy into the mouth of the medicine cauldron. Boom! As a muffled sound came from inside the medicine cauldron, blazing flames immediately began to billow and burn inside the medicine cauldron, quickly turning the originally relatively cool cave into a blazing hot one.